And so I originally kind of went down the history path, which has informed a lot of my work. But then it was also, a solutions based thinker. I'm like, okay, it's one thing to depress everyone that your government constantly lies to get you into war. What would be kind of a solution to that? And I stumbled upon media literacy. And so I got interested in this idea of, instead of telling people what to think about these narratives, what like skills can you grant people or give people or help people develop so they can avoid getting manipulated. And that kind of set me off on a path to go down these different routes about the utility of media literacy and learn more about media.
What skills do you think people need?
I think questions is a major one. Just learning to ask questions, like you did earlier about the headline. Is the headline accurate? Is a simple but very important question. Who's left out of this news article or video? Like, what viewpoints are not included? Is a great question. I think another skill would be to slow down. So much of our culture and environment is like move fast, fast. And so what we end up doing is not understanding lots of content. I encourage people to spend more time with less content. Develop a list of priorities. You can't be outraged all the time and care about everything and be an expert on everything. There's some things that are really important to you, and I would encourage you to spend your time with that as well. And as a kind of closely related one, I talk about with social media. Social media is an environment that's not built for complex thinking, research, or connection. So if you care about an issue, whatever your issue is, your number one issue is climate change or racial justice or stopping a war, I wouldn't necessarily go to social media as a place to debate that. I think it disrespects the issue. And so I think that's also an important thing that I tell folks as well. But also finding good journalists who deserve to be considered credible and following them. And those are usually the people, I think, who report on things that go against dominant narratives and turn out to be right. And they're brave enough to stand their ground, even when it hurts their career temporarily. Those are the people I encourage folks to find and follow, because both their bravery and substantive journalism are critical.
Well, one of the things I would ask that is included in that from my own experience and perspective, and I'll put it to you this way: I've had mentored young reporters who will come to me and go, "Well, this is what I think," and I go, "I don't give a shit what you think. I barely care what I think. What do you fucking know?"
Yeah.
So I'd try to get people to read content and ask yourself the question: is this an opinion or is this stated as fact? And if it's fact, what's the backup to show that it's a fact? And if it's an opinion, then because I find that many times we are printing or stating opinions on television, printing them or stating them as fact when they're merely nothing more than opinion.
Yeah, that's a great source of frustration for me when they want to be opinion, opinion, opinion. Then you call them out for getting something wrong. I say, like, look, I'm a journalist. I was just going with the sources I had. So they go from opinion person to journalist, and I
Well,
like that.
first of all, if it's not your opinion and it's a source, state the source. And then if some things don't need to be double sourced. For example, if the Holocaust exists or existed, man landed on the moon, the world is round, chemtrails are full of shit. So certain things you don't have to have multiple sources on. But if you're going to come to me and tell me that Donald Trump was caught in a refrigerator with a monkey, I want to have a source for that. That's something that that's, if you think he was, stated an opinion, one. But if you're going to present it as fact, I need a backup for it. And to me, one of the problems I have with independent journalism, look, you and I are sitting here talking about facts and opinions, and that's great. And people should, and I recommend people source it out. And as you said, I like the idea of spending more time with fewer, and then try to critically decide which ones you should listen to, but always keeping your mind open to something else. But at the same time, most of the stuff that I see is independent reporting on even Substack or others are merely opinions. And I find journalism to be a collaborative effort, and it takes sometimes a photographer, an editor, a reporter, and you can't be all three of those. And then there has to be at least a copy editor involved, someone who will call you into question and go, all right, where did you get that? That name is spelled wrong. Where'd you get this quote? Someone to call you and make you accountable before publication. To your point, in the speed that we have today, in the quick pace of the news cycle, we will blast stuff. Even newspapers, legacy newspapers, will blast stuff on the internet without it ever being copy edited. In fact, the first people that are often canned in the consolidation of media as our newsrooms become smaller and smaller are the copy editors.